People in the MAGA universe have been telling us for years that Joe Biden is the most corrupt president that this country has ever seen, and that he was in some way working with his son Hunter to enrich themselves as part of the Biden crime family. But we recently learned that the main purveyor of these conspiracies is not only tied to Russia, but he's also now pleading guilty as an FBI informant for making all this stuff up. But first, if you want to support independent progressive media and help me make it to 1,000 subscribers, please remember to hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to reach 1,000 before the end of the year, and I would very much appreciate your support. Now, it seems like ever since Joe Biden was elected as president, there has been a concerted effort to go after him at all costs. If that means they were going to go after his son, that's what they would do. If that means they were going to use unverified information from an FBI informant, they were going to do that as well. It seems like MAGA Republicans in Congress were working with the right-wing media ecosystem to come up with all of these different stories to make Joe Biden look bad. One of the main ways they did that was by targeting Hunter Biden and creating this political hit job that just was not based in reality.
For years, the right wing has been running a sketchy, tawdry political operation to find and prosecute any wrongdoing by the president's son, Hunter Biden. And the president's son has, of course, as we all know, made some very bad judgment calls over the years, largely, I think, related to his lifelong struggle with addiction. But he has been targeted in what is essentially a political hit job intended to inflict pain upon his father. He is facing criminal charges by a special prosecutor in the Department of Justice that many experts say would never be brought against anyone who is not the son of the president. Now, some of the most serious claims leveled against Hunter Biden have to do with his work for a Ukrainian energy company called Burisma and alleged payments they made to the Bidens, plural. You see, Republicans have been yelling from the rooftops about Burisma and alleged bribes paid not only to Hunter Biden, but to Joe Biden, to the man himself, the president of the United States, who was then vice president. That idea of illicit, secret, seven-figure bribes to the man who's currently president has been the central point of their whole attack. And today, in the most spectacular embarrassment imaginable, it blew up in their faces.
And blew up in their faces, it did. We will get to that in a few. But we just need to recap here. The Republicans have been working for years to go after Hunter Biden. They even tried to impeach Joe Biden based on some of the information that they were given by this FBI informant. How many hearings did we have to sit through where James Comer and Jim Jordan were trying to tie all these things together to try to implicate Joe and Hunter Biden in this giant conspiracy of corruption? How many times did we hear that Joe Biden was taking bribes from Ukraine so that they could influence our policy in some way? We also know that they were never able to provide any proof at all that would show Joe Biden was in any way corrupt. They investigated Hunter Biden for 4 years, and the only thing they were able to come up with was that weaselly little gun charge and the tax evasion while he was using drugs. There was never any evidence or any proof at all that Joe Biden was taking money from Ukraine through his son Hunter, and that they were all just benefiting off this Biden crime family idea. There was never a shred of evidence to prove that. But they kept on and kept on and kept on. MAGA Republicans held hearing after hearing after hearing. Then they would go on Fox News afterwards to try to sell it to the American people. This is one of the main problems we are currently having today. People in the MAGA universe live in a complete separate reality when they are plugged into Fox News all the time, and Fox News works with these MAGA Republicans in pursuit of power, and because they don't have any fidelity to the truth, they just push conspiracy after conspiracy after lie after lie. It is a damn shame. I mean, just look at how Fox News was pushing this narrative to hurt Joe Biden.
A veteran FBI informant alleging both the president and Hunter Biden each took $5 million in bribes.
The details come from an FBI informant who is very trusted.
A highly reliable informant that has always checked out all the information he's ever given us has checked out.
We have determined that whistleblower is extremely credible.
This is a very crucial piece of our investigation.
A confidential human source that had been reliable previously to the FBI.
A confidential informant that they had on the payroll. Documented allegations of bribery from a trusted FBI confidential human source has now finally been released. Now, its contents are devastating.
They hinged their whole conspiracy off the testimony of one FBI informant. They kept on pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. They never could give us any hard proof. They could never show us anything in their taxes. They could never show any receipts. They could never show any conversations that would implicate Joe Biden as a corrupt individual. They tried to use Hunter Biden's laptop to prove that, but they never pulled anything concrete off there either. They were just throwing anything at the wall to see what stuck because they wanted to hurt Joe Biden. That was the goal. But then we learned earlier this year that that FBI informant that they based their whole conspiracy off of had ties to Russia. And we also learned that he was lying to the FBI. Let's get a quick overview when Alexander Smirnov was indicted. That kind of proves that all of this conspiracy, all of these corruption, the Biden crime family was based on a farce.
The special counsel investigating the Bidens, Trump-appointed U.S. Attorney David Weiss, has now indicted his own key informant for lying. 43-year-old Alexander Smirnov was arrested Wednesday and charged on 2 counts for feeding the FBI false information. Smirnov's allegation that Joe and Hunter Biden received $5 million bribes from a Ukrainian company has always been manifestly absurd. And yet, it was the central point of the Republican argument for President Biden's impeachment.
And that is exactly right. How many times did we hear them go out there on Fox News, like we just saw, and say, well, we have credible information from this confidential human source that the FBI trusts, and we know we got this in the bag. We heard it time and time and time again, even as we continued to ask for more solid evidence. This was their beacon of truth. This is what their whole thing hinged on. Was Alexander Smirnov telling this story about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden taking bribes from Burisma, the energy company over in Ukraine, but that they couldn't show any other proof of. And the reason that they weren't able to show any other proof of that is because Alexander Smirnov was making all this up. This was a concerted effort by not only Alexander Smirnov, but by the Russians to take Joe Biden out. This was a political hit job. So Alexander Smirnov worked with the Russians to spread these conspiracies as a means to hurt Joe Biden. And we are now learning that Alexander Smirnov is now pleading guilty to not only these tax charges that he's liable for, but for lying to the FBI about these Biden stories. Let's go ahead and read what exactly happened really quick. Okay. The ex-FBI informant who accused President Joe Biden and his son Hunter of netting millions of dollars in bribes from Ukrainian energy company Burisma has admitted that the whole story was a dud. In a plea deal, Alexander Smirnov admitted to completely fabricating the conspiracy that became central to a Republican effort to impeach the sitting president. Smirnov agreed to plead guilty to 4 felony charges, which include 1 count of obstruction of justice and 3 tax evasion charges, in exchange for the end of 2 pending criminal cases against him, according to court documents. Okay. In February, the Justice Department revealed that Smirnov admitted to prosecutors that officials associated with Russian intelligence were involved in developing the Hunter Biden narrative. In the ensuing fallout over the DOJ indictment, Smirnov told investigators he was in contact with 4 different top Russian officials, 2 of whom were the heads of the entities they represent. So we are talking about high up Russian intelligence. In the end, Smirnov's faux narrative and its ability to capture and sway overzealous and power-hungry U.S. politicians served as just another example of how effectively the Russian government can infiltrate and undermine U.S. elections. It targeted the presumptive nominee of one of the 2 major political parties in the United States. The effects of Smirnov's false statements and fabricated information continue to be felt to this day, prosecutors wrote at the beginning of the year. And that could not be more true. One of the main conspiracies that holds the web of lies together in the MAGA universe is the idea that Joe Biden is a corrupt individual that is taking bribes from Ukraine, using his son Hunter to sell out America. This is a huge cornerstone of the MAGA worldview. And we are learning that this came directly from Russia. Just imagine how embarrassing that is. We have Russian disinformation making it into the halls of our Congress. Where power lies in this country, Russia is infiltrating. Because MAGA Republicans are so power hungry, they are so willing to do whatever it takes to knock Joe Biden down a few pegs, that they are willing to use information coming from Russia. Now, I haven't been shown any evidence that, like, James Comer and Jim Jordan knew where this information was coming from, but it does seem like they knew that Alexander Smirnov was no longer a trustworthy source. And they were willing to use this information anyway. This is such an indictment on our elected officials. This is un-American bullshit. I just don't know any other way to put it. MAGA Republicans are so hungry for power. They are so hungry for Donald Trump to be their dear leader that they are willing to take Russian propaganda, wittingly or unwittingly, to try to hurt the Democratic Party. This is why I continue to say that we've seen many interviews. If you go talk to many people in the MAGA movement, they would prefer Vladimir Putin to be their president than Kamala Harris. What are we supposed to do about that? These people are more aligned with Russia than they are with people like me. People, liberals, Democrats. They are more willing to sell out to one of our greatest adversaries, Russia, than to try to work with Democrats on the other side of the aisle to better this country. What are we supposed to do? I do not know what we can do about this. But we have to be here calling it out every step of the way. We have to make sure that the American people know that the Republicans are acting like this. There's just no, I just don't know what else to do. The American people have been bamboozled by not only MAGA Republicans, but now by Russia. And they seem to be okay with it because Donald Trump leans into the Russian narratives as well. So now we know that there is no corruption with Joe Biden. We know that he wasn't taking bribes because the person who was making all these stories up has just pled guilty to making all this stuff up. I'll leave it there for now. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share it with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. Like I said, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I'm in my final stretch with less than 60 to go, so I would very much appreciate your support. If you want to see how Joe Rogan's brain has been compromised by similar disinformation, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, see you guys on the next one.